My name is Sean Horton. I'm a student at JTech, and today I'm going to talk about how to perform a vacuum test, a cylinder leak down test, a power balance test, and a cylinder compression test. For these tests, we want to make sure we have the proper PPE. In this case, is safety glasses. I'm using several special tools for these tests, including a scan tool, a cylinder leak tester, a vacuum tester, the gauge, and a compression gauge set. Let's start by talking about how to do a vacuum test, both at idle and by snapping the throttle. Performing this vacuum test, we want to look for a 1721 vacuum. This is mercury at idle. That's a good reading. If it's oscillating back and forth, 4 to 8 degrees mercury, we want to take a look at the valves. They're probably burned or have bad seats. If it drops, if it's good at idle, and then once the speed increases 2,500 to 3,000 RPMs, it slowly decreases. This could be an exhaust restriction. And if we snap the throttle while doing the reading, and it comes to 0, but then it does not return back to higher than where it started, this could be possible warning rings.
You see here we've got the vacuum gauge hooked up to the vacuum line. We are running it at idle. And it looks like we're about 18 to 19 liters of vacuum. This is a pretty good reading. Snap vacuum test. You see there, it went to 0 and came back down higher than original and stayed back off of 20. We're going to increase the idle, increase RPM to 500. I said pretty good about 20, it's not dropping off, it's staying pretty level.
Next, we're talking about how to perform a cranking compression test and a running compression test. So our next test is to perform the cranking compression test. So for this test, we have all the spark plugs are pulled out. We have our gauge hooked up to one of the cylinders. We've used a jump wire next to the S terminal, our starter, and we're going to give it. So that's about 150 psi right there. So when we do this test, we can compare it to the other cylinders. We want to make sure they're within spec of each other in the PSI. And we also use this to compare it to the running compression test and use the results from that to see if we're within spec there. Let's start by performing the running compression test. So you can see we now got the vehicle at idle. And we're running about 80-90 PSI, somewhere in that range. Also going to do a snap test. See it jumped up. Now we're looking at about 130, somewhere in that range. We're looking to see that snap throttle range is 80% of where our cranking compression was. Now we're going to perform a cylinder leak down test by filling the cylinder with compressed air and listening for a leak. We all set up for our cylinder leak down test. We have compressed air going into our cylinder. About 100 psi, we're looking to see what percentage leak it tests, about 20%. If it's over 40, that means it's out of spec. We have the cylinder positioned at top dead center on the compression stroke to make sure all the valves are closed, and a wrench holding it there so that the air pressure doesn't push against it. So before this test, we want to look for a couple of things. If there's a leak, we want to check the intake side, the filter area. If we hear a lot of air coming out there, that means the intake valve is leaking. We're going to check the exhaust side from the exhaust system. And we hear a lot of air in there, it would mean this exhaust valve is leaking. We're going to take the cap off for the oil. A little air is okay there, but if it's a lot, that could be bad rings for the piston. And we'll check it at the coolant. And if a lot of air or bubbles coming through the coolant system, that could indicate that there is a leak in the block, crack in the block. Now we're going to talk about how to perform a cylinder power balance test. For a cylinder power balance test, we have 3 ways we're going to perform it: via using a scan tool, via disconnecting it at the spark, and also by disconnecting the fuel supply. So what we're going to do is disconnect our spark from a cylinder and listen and see if there's any change in how the vehicle sounds. This is close, and you hear it now. I turn around the bumper. Plug it back in, smooth back out. If it hadn't changed at all, that would indicate a problem. This is working fine. Now we're going to disconnect the fuel injector and listen for a change in sound. See, now it's running the bumper. I mean, that cylinder won't work. Alright, now we're going to perform a power balance test using a scan tool. That scan tool hooked up. The same thing before, we're going to disable one cylinder and listen for a sound change. See it change sounds. That cylinder is okay. We can go through all the cylinders, just like that. Like that. That's how you perform the vacuum test, cylinder leak down test, compression test, and power balance test. Hopefully you learned something today. Thank you very much.